Starting, all attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to part 2 of the Fall Protection webinar series. My name is Paula Hyman from the Ohio LTAP Center. I'm filling in for Victoria Beal today. Before we begin, I want to cover a couple housekeeping items. I see that 3 of you have already located the questions box. Go ahead and put a good morning, hello, hi, how you doing, whatever you'd like to put in there. Just make sure you know where it's located. That's where you're going to ask your questions throughout today's presentation. And we'll periodically stop throughout and make sure that those are answered, your questions are answered, just so everyone knows where it's at. Today's presentation will be emailed out to you. It was attached yesterday, but we will do a follow-up email similar to the one that you had yesterday with a link to the recording of this webinar. And if for some reason you didn't get that email or you need that information right away, put your email in the questions box and I'll make sure I send that out to you right now. Otherwise, today's information again will be provided following the training today. There's also a post-training survey and a test. After today's training, again, you'll receive an email with additional information once attendance is verified for both part 1 and part 2. I want to thank you again in advance for your participation, and I'm going to pass things off to Robinson Vasquez, Safety Business Developer and Training Manager with the American Road and Transportation Builders Association. Robinson?
Thank you so much, Paula, and hello, good morning, everybody. We are going to start our second day. Let's recap a little what we learned yesterday with our fall protection training, especially focusing on the roadway construction safety. We can identify that falls is the second most frequent cause of fatalities in our industry behind traffic that covers. And falls can happen in 3 different categories, I would say. Falling from the same level, just walking on the ground, falling, we are going down from the equipment, and we will learn what do we need to do to prevent this kind of incidents. But the most important is the third category. Okay, so we were talking yesterday about why it's important also to have a plan, the steps of the process that we need to take to provide a better safety for our workers. Basically, we need to start with a hazard analysis every time, and we need to teach our workers to do it by themselves. Usually, hazard analysis were developed or made by engineers, supervisors, leading personnel, but we are now, Osha is emphasizing now that everybody, inclusive workers, should do the hazard analysis to identify the problems that could happen there. And then we need to create a plan. How are we going to neutralize these hazards that we can find in the workplace? Okay, the plan is in fall protection, we need to create several plans because we have several situations. We reviewed the standards yesterday, and we could realize there is when we are working above any water, like rivers or lakes in which our workers could fall. We need to provide a special protection for them, having a boat with personnel ready to rescue anybody who falls in the water. Also, our workers need to use ice, and then we explore the zero level control. For example, if we have 0 feet level, okay, we need to provide workers could fall and impale on any rebar or any other structure below the workers, or protection, no matter how many feet are they going to fall if they fall, because the risk is not only collision between the equipments, moving parts, and all these things. So we explore also the rule, the general rule is required for the employer to provide fall protection whenever a worker is working 6 feet high or more in any circumstances, and about all the methods that we can use to prevent and protect our workers from fall hazards. some of the methods are, for example, having how to install a car rail, what are the requirements of a car rail. We talk about nets, also that it's required to be the installation of the net and all the requirements. We talk a little about warning signs. We can use warning signs on the edge of the fire hazard. The idea is our workers could work safely inside of this area, preventing them to cross near to the edge 6 feet distance at least. So we can also use personal fall arrest system, personal fall arresting, and we are going to talk more about these requirements today, about all the personal protective equipment that they can use. We were also talking about the scaffolds. When our workers are working on scaffolds, they need fall protection whenever they are 10 feet height or more, and also 15 feet rule. So our workers are working in structures and steel erection, bridges, and they need safety equipment. They are going to need to attach their body harness to anchor point connections that they have to the structure of the place in which they are working. So as we can realize, there are several rules, several situations, and we need a planned situation because they are different circumstances, and OSHA is requiring also to have a program, which is a sort of a we put together our plans and basic principles and ideas common to these plans, and we can create a program to protect our workers. And in both cases, the plan is written by a qualified person, somebody who has knowledge and experience, or by studies has the knowledge to create the measures or the plan to provide the safety measures. And all these activities, all these plans, all these programs should be executed by the competent person. Okay, the competent person is somebody who has knowledge about the job that we are going to do, and also has the authority to request people to do the job or stop working on, or teach them how to do the job. It is very important because usually we can hear a lot of training offerings saying, hey, for protection for competent person, confined spaces for competent person, and electrocution for competent person, and so on. So, but a competent person requires to have also not only to request people to stop working or correct deficiencies on safety. Okay, so emphasizing that whenever we provide training, we need to create documentation to support that we provided the training. Okay, it's a thing, or be in charge of providing the training, verify that everything the plan is executed, do the evaluations about the plan, think again how to improve the plan. So it requires the competent person to have contact with the workers to verify, get their suggestion or recommendation on how can we improve the plan. So the plan should be also revamped regularly to problems that were not originally tackled in the first plan. So we need to do this activity, and it's important. So in our site, they are going to ask us to show them the plan, the program, the trainings that we were providing, the training materials that we used during the training, and so on. So it's important to have this information also available. Continue talking now about the personal fall arrest, personal fall restraint system. So it's the body harness, the anchor rescue devices that we can use if people or workers are using this personal fall arrest or personal fall restraint system, especially the talking a little about it yesterday. Let's recap. Usually, let's recap there. systems because it's not falling.
Fall restraint methods are always preferred because they prevent loading dangerous fall hazards.
This thing is going to prevent us or the level below the location in which we are working. This video also mentioned a couple of things that I want to recap. We were talking yesterday about the OSHA control safety hierarchy. And remember, elimination should be our goal. Whenever we think about how to protect our workers, we need to try to think about how can we eliminate the hazard, the fall hazard. The second is the substitution, okay? Substitution means also not only use one kind of product to the other, but also selecting the better technologies. In some cases, we can compare the price and utilities of this personal fall arrest or fall restraint system. There are different prices. There are different capabilities of each equipment, and sometimes investing a little more on getting a good personal protective equipment, we can improve the safety of our workers for better, so and prevent an incident. Then we have the other categories is the engineer control methods is how can we design the work zone in a way in which we can protect and prevent accidents, especially if we can design a place in which we use guardrails, for example. We can install the guardrails, we create this protection for our workers, but these guardrails are not always practical because in some circumstances we cannot use guardrails. In some circumstances, we cannot use a net. We need to use a personal protective equipment that we need to train our workers how to use, maintain, and identify if there is any deficiency. Okay, and this is allowing us to go to the next level of protection, which is administrative control. For example, training, rotating our workers, restricting or creating some restriction for some work areas in which it's possible to have more people falling. For example, in a place in which people, or usually we have 10 workers, maybe we can restrict the location for only 3 workers to prevent fall hazard, only authorized personnel in this area. So we can create some administrative rules to improve safety. And then the last resource is this, the personal protective equipment. And by the way, according to the experts, it is the use of the personal protective equipment is not only the last resource, but the less effective in all these categories. So elimination is the most effective. Second is the substitution method. Third is the engineer control. Fourth is the administrative control, and PPEs or last resource. But of course, it's required by OSHA. Okay, so we need to review how are we going to or use this personal protective equipment, how what are the parts of the personal protective equipment, what are the quality that it has to have all the personal protective equipment, how to maintain it, how to keep it, how to identify if there is any deficiency. So these are points that we are going to cover in this section because we are going to talk about very much about this personal protective equipment. So this is similar to the personal fall restraint system. We have this personal fall arrest system. Okay, we have this situation. A personal fall arrest system must be rigged so that a worker can never free fall more than 6 feet and cannot hit any lower levels. That's the main idea. Limit maximum arresting force on a worker to 1,800 pounds. Okay, because if it were more, usually we are putting on risk the neck of the worker, especially because the bouncing effect, the swing effect could create additional hazards. So we have to reduce the impact to less than 1,800 pounds. And that's why we usually have a Lanyard with a shock absorber to reduce the impact. Then bring a worker to a complete stop and limit the maximum deceleration distance to 3.5 feet. Have enough strength to withstand twice the potential impact energy of a worker free falling a distance of 6 feet or the free fall distance permitted by the system, whichever is less. The personal fall arrest system must hold a fallen worker safely until rescue can be completed. And it is something very, very important because we have the orthostatic trauma or suspension trauma, and we need to rescue the guy as soon as possible to prevent these kind of problems that we are going to study in this presentation too. So to understand a little more about the personal fall arrest systems, let me show you this video.
When it's impractical to provide fall restraint, the worker's next line, but not all body harness connected in line with the spine, distributed between the shoulders and the hips. Shock-absorbing lanyards go a long way lifeline when a fall.
Fall arrest systems to enable regular maintenance and enabling them to work more.
So in general, read it. I'll show you this video.
Anchors. Anchors are a secure point of attachment that depend on the type of job or two categories. Body harness is a piece of equipment to secure you in a way that secures around your waist and that can be open to attempting is auto-locking. It's always for your fall protection system. Since they must be consecutive, acceleration device is a mechanism. Shock absorbers or shocking lifelines and rope grabs. It's called yo-yos.
System anchor point. These have more time to be rescued. Okay, so this is easy to remember. The IV, every anchor point should be strong enough to resist a pressure of 5,000 pounds per person. So if we have more than one person attached to this anchor point, it should be multiplied by the number of people attached to this anchor point. Maybe it could be 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 pounds. It depends how many people are attached to this anchor point. The body harness, it has these sections that shoulder straps, retainer, waist strap, like the straps, pelvic support, adjustment buckles, and it's important to make the difference, okay, with the body belts. Body belts are not allowed to be used as a personal fall arrest system. Body belts are used for the restraint system. We can use the body belts in the restraint system, but if we are using body belts instead of some people don't use, sometimes the D-ring is too low, that it is going to, if there is any fall, it's going to affect your body and it's not going to work properly. Torso, the snap hooks, carabiners, to have engraved in the metal part the ANSI certification and the pressure that it can receive, verify this information and verify that these snap hooks or carabiners are made according to the ANSI requirements. Because if not, there are other qualities sometimes imported from other places that look the same but are not going to work in the same way. Then we talk about descent and rescue devices. Yep. Shock absorbers and other devices that can help us when we are falling to prevent additional damage to our bodies. Additional important additions is also provide, for example, a radio or at least a whistle to our workers who are working in. So there is a problem. If another coworker has an incident, they can use this communication method to alert everybody that we have an emergency, or they can use them by themselves to announce that they are suffering an incident. So they can call the attention, immediate rescue. And we were talking about these leg straps. Basically, it's going to allow us to prevent the orthostatic trauma or suspension trauma. We're going to talk a little more about it later, but it is only a device that it costs $20, but it could be very good to prevent orthostatic trauma, which we are going to talk more about it very, very soon. So this is a video that is going to cover very much all these principles that we were talking about, having a plan, having a focus on the personal protective equipment, this personal fall arrest system and this personal fall restraint system. So let me show share it with you.
Half of these falls are compensation and protection. We believe that the fall prevention and protection of fall hazards in the workplace. 4 feet. A fall hazard is found. Engineering solutions such as guardrails. Once all have a written plan outlining how specified. Where prevention is impossible, the plan should state tasks required and an anchor point capable of being assembly and an attachment with the personal position system. The third category is the personal suspension system. It is used in such applications require use in applications where work first only tank be tight as taught. Under loop keepers. Remove the harness is the connecting device will stop a fall. Operated by a rope lanyard forces over 2,000 pounds. Team forces generate a test is performed with a shock. Note the smooth connecting devices is as fall limiters in spring loads. They are also very convenient whenever max up or down the lifeline. Special snap hook designed with your anchorage connector when using only for free for the anchor point. It has to be at least 18.5 of the work, up to 15%, and this stretch needs to be its requirement.
And we are going to share it with you.
An inverted U makes erosion, buckle torsion, distorted wear from repeated buckling and must seat onto the nose the keeper fretting on a lanyard or risk of damage. Rotate a rope lanyard wavers the outer portion of a strings or lanyard according to the manual. Read all instructions and warnings contained on and in the product packaging equipment should be carefully, but provide proper training.
Teach your work at least person considering the elongation distance of energy absorbing in shock pack lanyard. And it's very important, the shock absorber, to reduce the impact. Okay, a shock absorber can reduce the impact to 800, 900 pounds instead of 2,500 pounds. The estimate materials, the stretch, estimated the ring movement, height of suspended workers, all these factors we need to take in consideration to calculate all these 18.5 distance for fall clearance to prevent workers to touch the ground level. Then lanyard specifications, as I told you before, ANSI is very specific, or Osha is very specific for us to follow the ANSI standards, okay? And we need to read here are also engraved in the metal parts of the equipment. So optional factors, we can we need more effective than trying to find an anchor point below the level of the students or pole, and then we can.
And it is up. If you need to vote, go ahead and hit escape if you were in full screen mode to be able to vote on the screen here. And the question asks, according to the OSHA hierarchy of controls, what kind of control are the guardrails? Pick one. We're at about 47% voted, so we'll leave it open for another 30 seconds. Okay, Robinson. So 30% chose elimination. No one chose substitution. 63% chose engineer control. No one chose administrative control, and 7% said PPE.
Yes, the correct answer is the engineer control. There is a sort of, in this video, maybe there is a sort of confusion because they say we can eliminate the hazard if we install some guardrails, but in general, to install the guardrails is an engineer activity way in which you designed the workplace and you create some preventive measures to protect workers from falling. So the right answer is engineer control. Okay. If it is okay with you, we can continue at 11:10.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, are we ready? Thinking about selecting yard lifelines, horizontal lifelines, and there are different kind of snap hooks and carabiners, and they are usually best for vertical or horizontal lifelines. Using a ladder, and they need a vertical lifeline to connect to the personal fall arrest system to protect workers who are working vertically, working up or down. Or also we need the horizontal lifelines if we have workers working horizontally, moving from one side to the other. So the recommendation in general is snap hooks and carabiners are best for vertical or horizontal lifelines. By the way, it's possible sometimes to have more than one person connected to, especially to an horizontal lifeline. In the vertical lifeline, we only allow to have one person at a time connected to the vertical lifeline. Then web loops are suited for wrapping around beams. It's another form of anchoring connector. Using a web loops, we use it around a beam and to connect the anchor point to the Lanyard or the retractor system that we are using. Then the scaffold hooks are good for anchors of convenience, such as rebars. Yep, we can, especially when we are working with the steel erection, we need a couple of D-rings in the front of our body harness, and we can use these hooks to connect us to the rebars while we are working. Especially in general, when we are working 15 feet or less, we can use just this system. But if we are working 15 feet high or more, we need, in addition to the scaffold hooks, we need also to connect our the personal fall arrest system. Then ascender and descender devices might be the correct connector when connecting to a lifeline, especially a specifications. We have specific rules about it in the ANSI standard, or since 2007, the newest ANSI, American National Standard Institute standard, requires all fall protection hardware to have a minimum of 16 kilonewtons, 3,600 pounds rating for the gate, and 22.5 kilonewtons, 5,000 pounds tensile load. So, and all this information should be specified in the metal part also of the snap hook and carabiner. So we need to verify they have engraved this information and they fulfill with these ANSI requirements. It's something that the Osha inspectors also use to verify. Something else about horizontal lifelines. Horizontal lifeline is a lifeline anchored at both ends. We could have features include maybe temporary or permanent horizontal lifeline. It's going to stretch, and we need to consider this factor also when we calculate the fall protection distance that we in which we add all this distance of the lanyard, the connector, the worker, to prevent him to touch the ground or the lower level in which he is working. At least it should be, adding all these factors, it should be no more than 18.5 feet distance. We can also use use self-retracting lines like the one that we are showing here. So it's also a deceleration device. Actually, it works very much like a car seat belt. When it detects a sort of impact or acceleration, it stops immediately the device to prevent people from falling. Some components include drum wound line, extracted, retracted from onto the drum under the slight tension. Drums lock automatically in fall. So it is as we watch in the videos, it is very, very interesting because it provides a lot of mobility to the worker, so the worker can move easily from side to side. And some advantages that we can realize from this device is it says it reduces the free fall. Also reduce the risk of hitting the ground or other objects, make rescue easier. Sometimes these devices have some helping device in which you can use and rescue yourself. And also sometimes the device detects the impact so fast that you can rescue yourself and retrieve yourself to our original position. Okay, so reduces tangles and trips also, yeah, because the device is absorbing or providing more cable according to the position in which you are moving. Some limitation, but it is very similar to the Lanyard. It has a limited horizontal distance from worker from anchor. It's the same basically that we have in a regular Lanyard. So we are going to talk about rescue of the workers now. If a worker has fallen, we need to provide rescue in 5 minutes according to the Osha standard. And we are going to share with you a video recently created by ARTBA about this topic, how to rescue a person, and also about suspension trauma.
Today, we'll demonstrate how to develop a plan to rescue and treat workers when an incident occurs, as well as how to protect medical fall protection, loss of circulation buildup, which is released to include the following: falls, ensuring that fire and EMS are at the job site, and how to assume that your safety vest incident is our top priority to the scene, public or media, and spectator area. While there will certainly just report what. A few final notes on rescue: pump their legs, freeze, and other resources.
Incidents, accidents, rescue this person. It happens because harness straps, because all the weight, it is going to create a tourniquet effect in the back of your legs, and your blood is not going to circulate. It depends on the heart condition, the weight of the person. Typically, according to OSHA, a person can die in this situation between in 15 to 40 minutes. It depends on the person, the condition, the weight, the heart, the age of the person, of course. Typically, it's 15 to 40 minutes. Exceptionally, it could be 10 minutes, but that's why OSHA is very concerned about it, to provide a rescue as soon as possible in 5 minutes. And we need to have a plan. So it's not, as we watch in the video, it's not just enough call 911 and wait for the rescue services to arrive. Usually when we're working in a work zone, we don't have any specific milestones. Sometimes in the area, if it's a new construction site, we only have sort of description of the area. That's why it's important in the plan to identify who or where is the firefighters station or the police office station, and also visit the chief of these agencies to tell them, hey, we are going to work in this site just in case we are going to do these activities. We are going to have this kind of situation, not only falls, but also you can talk about, hey, we are going to work near power lines. We are going to work doing some excavation and trenching. We are going to have some maybe cabins or confined space situations. So just of course, you are going to take your measures to prevent all these incidents to happen, but it is good to have this information to our firefighters, for example, if we need some additional help. But as we watch in this video, it's not a solution just to call 911. We have to provide a solution as fast as possible in 5 minutes. Waiting for your going to transfer all your weight from your home, and actually people can be in this situation for hours, and you are going to for static trauma because you are transferring all your weight to your feet, and you are not going to have this tourniquet effect on your legs. So, but in any case, OSHA is requiring us to have a rescue plan to rescue the victim in 5 minutes or less, so that the standard didn't change. So rescue plans, the company must have a plan to rescue the suspended workers in less than 5 minutes. Rescuer must take care in handling a falling worker to avoid post-rescue death caused by the heart's inability to tolerate an abrupt increase in the flow of carbon dioxide saturated blood from the legs. It happens that, look, If you don't have these leg straps, so all your weight is going to be in the back or your legs, okay? And you are going to have this orthostatic trauma. If we are rescued and we allowed our body to be in an horizontal position, we could have this kind of impact on our heart, because all this blood that was trapped in your legs and without oxygen are going to abruptly go to our heart and to our lungs, and it can create some cardiac arrest, and we can have problems also from this situation, because we are going to overcharge our heart and our lungs with this blood or bad blood in our veins. So the idea is to keep a W position. So if you are rescued, you have to keep a W position like it's shown in this picture. So don't be in an horizontal position, because your blood is going to circulate so fast and could affect your heart and your lungs. Keep a W position in which your blood is going to start circulating slowly. So sometimes the emergencies medical services don't know about it, so we have to ask them, hey, wait me, don't put me on the bed just, or don't allow me to be horizontal. Let's wait 30 minutes in this position to allow my blood to circulate again slowly and prevent any cardiac arrest. So for a fall prevention plan, again, it should be site-specific. So it is not a generic product. It should be customized according to the circumstances in which we are going to work, identify specifically each hazard according to the work zone in which we are working. There should be a site-specific rescue plan, because you need to identify where are the firefighters, where are the policemen, where are the rescue personnel, and you have to train your workers that are working in this specific area. So identify who is going to do what. John, you are going to bring a ladder if there is this situation. Mike, you are going to call a 911 immediately. Robert, Joseph, I don't know, but we think about it. It's important to have somebody going to the access zone of the war zone, okay? Because very valuable minutes are spent for ambulance to find the access zone. They receive the phone call, they are going to the place, they arrive to the place, but they don't know where to access to the war zone. So that's important in the plan, to have somebody going to the access zone and provide the instructions to any rescue personnel arriving to the war zone, and take them directly to the location in which we have the victim. Okay, it's an important part of the plan. But these plans have to be written, has to be customized according to the circumstances, and they need to have names inside. Who is going to do what? Okay, plans should be written by a qualified person, but should be implemented by the competent person, by the foreman. Normally, workers are trained by a competent person, person qualified in fall protection. Yeah. So this is a sort of exercise that we do with our students when we are in a regular class, face-to-face class. So we have this activity. We ask the group what they think should be included in a written fall protection plan, in a general fall protection plan, okay? And we usually have a flip chart in which people are getting some information. So what do we need in a plan? We usually have to do the hazard analysis and identify all the fall hazards that we have and all the categories of fall hazards that we have, because not all the fall hazards are the same. Sometimes we are working in a high altitude. We have to consider falling from equipment. We can consider also falling from the same level. We have to consider also the impalement risk. For example, these guys are working very near to some rebars. If they fall, they can be maybe imposed by these rebars. So we have to consider the 6 feet rule. In regular conditions, we have to consider if we are working on the scaffolds. We are going to consider if we are working with steel erection. So scaffolds is the 10 feet rule, steel erection is the 15 feet rule. And we need to consider if we are going to, they are going to work vertically or horizontally. So there are many things. That's why Osha is asking us to have a program. Okay, a program is a collection of different plans because we need a plan for different situations. It's not only one plan to everything. It's not possible. We have different circumstances in a war zone in which people can fall, and we need a plan for different circumstances, different situations. Okay, so we identify the hazards, then we need to use our OSHA control safety hierarchy and try to think, okay, what are we going to do to eliminate the hazard? Okay, maybe you can think, hey, let's build a bridge on the ground level and then use a couple of cranes to put it in the final position. In that way, we eliminate completely the fall hazard for high altitude because the bridge is on the ground level or something like that. Substitution, you can think about, okay, what kind of devices are we going to use according to the circumstances? Maybe in this situation, we need a guardrail. In this situation, we need a net. In this other situation, we only need some warning signs. In this other situation, we need a personal fall arrest system or personal fall restraint system. So trying to select what kind of method that you're going to do, substitute one for the other and try to find the best one for your workers. Then the engineer control, how are we going to design the war zone in a way in which we can prevent falls? Then we have the administrative control. It's about training. What training are we going to provide to our workers? Are we going to rotate people, or we are going to create only allowed personnel, some restriction areas in which only allowed personnel or trained personnel can arrive to this place or can go to this place, and so on. Some rules that we can create with our workers. And the last line of defense is the personal protective equipment. We spend a lot of time talking about personal protective equipment, but as I told you, it's required, it's mandatory, it's important, but we need to think about the other steps that we were talking about: elimination, substitution, engineer control, administrative controls, and then personal protective equipment. So these are the tools that we have to create a plan, okay? Training, and we were talking about, and then we have the evaluation. So the competent person should go and evaluate with the workers regularly. How are you going? Do you feel safe? Or do you know how to use it? Show me that you are using it correctly, this PPE, and so on, and get their opinions, the opinions of the workers about the plan. How can we improve the plan? Because there is always a margin to improve any plan according to the circumstances, okay? So these are some parts of the plan. Of course, we have to include the emergency rescue plan. If there is any worker falling, we need to provide rescue as soon as possible, as described before. Also, we have some activities with our students. We do the demonstration about how to use the personal fall arrest system and the parts of the personal fall arrest system. We identify all the engraved parts in this personal fall arrest system. We can talk about qualities and prices. For example, the range of the prices could go from $150 to $500 per equipment, all the system. So in summary, we were working and talking about your rights under the OSHA Act for workers, especially. Please encourage your workers to disclose any safety issue inside of your organization. It is important to empower our workers and sometimes telling them, hey, actually you are helping the company to prevent an incident. in the reality is not only because we are concerned of the workers' safety and their families' wellness, but also we are concerned about the company, the construction company wellness, because an accident is going to be very expensive for the company too, from the legal perspective, the insurance perspective, the time, overhead costs, and also from future business. If our employment notification rate is going down, or excuse me, the numbers are above 1, it means that we don't have a very good safety procedures, and maybe the owners, counties, states decide to work with another company that has a better safety standards or rates. Okay, so empower our workers from the economic perspective also to help us to do their job more efficiently, more productive, and the morale is going to increase too when we allow our workers to participate in this process. So that's a good idea about how to increase participation of our workers and try to solve the problems inside the organization instead of going to OSHA. Of course, they can go to OSHA whenever they want, but the OSHA inspectors also recommend people try to solve the problem internally, because OSHA personnel, they have limitations. They don't have a lot of personnel or resources, and sometimes they can program an inspection in 3 weeks and you need a solution now. And sometimes disclosing the problem with your foreman, your supervisor, your safety director, safety managers can find a solution. You can find a solution in 5 minutes. So then we learned the most common causes of falls in roadway construction. We were talking about falling from the same level, falling from equipment, and falling from high altitude. Okay, and then we learned how to the 5 main points to prevent falls during transportation construction. Actually, these main points applies to different situations. The points is first do a hazard analysis. Then you have to create a plan using the hierarchy of control. Then you have to provide the right materials to your workers to prevent falls, maybe a guardrail, a net, personal protective equipment, and then train your workers how to use it, how to prevent using these devices, how to prevent falls, and then to evaluate if everything is okay and come back again to the plan to verify that everything, to revamp all this information. Okay. Then we learned the main methods we can use to protect ourselves against falling from high levels. Yep, we were talking about guardrails, nets, personal fall arrest system, personal fall restraint system, and also we learned about the emergency action plan. If somebody is falling, we learned about orthostatic trauma, how to prevent orthostatic trauma, how to use these leg straps also in the case of emergency, and why it's important to prevent this orthostatic trauma, because people can die regularly. Typically, according to OSHA, in 15 to 40 minutes, people can die from orthostatic trauma, but we are learning how to solve the problem. Okay, so before going to the end of this class, I want to share with you a visual test. Okay, let me when waves should be at least 6 feet distant from pedestrians walking in the, and look, if it is expensive to have accidents with our workers, at least we have a contract with our workers in which they assume part of the responsibility, or they assume part of the risk. They know that this activity, the construction activity, is risky, and they agree to do it. But a pedestrian, he didn't sign anything. So if a pedestrian have an incident here, they can sue your company, and we are talking about millions of dollars of indemnization. So if you have to take care about your workers, you have to take more care about regular pedestrians or general public, because it is going to, if there is an incident with them, it's going to be much more expensive, more problematic for your company. So So these warning signs are inside of the fall hazard area. So the caution tapes do not meet the requirements of a barricade fence or guardrail system or warning signs. Okay. This is a messy situation. Also, we have this. This can work as a warning sign, but they are this safety just do warning sign 6 feet distance, feet above the ground. On the top of the step ladder, we cannot use step ladder, which is not permitted. The scaffold does not have any guardrails installed. We have a very bad situation for the workers. Similar this foundation work again, these guys could fall easily. And when you fall, it's not like jumping in which you are trying to control how are you going to arrive to the ground. When you fall, you don't select what part of your body is going to touch the ground first. Maybe it's going to be your head, maybe you're going to be your back, your arm, and you can broke several you fall. So protect yourself. So and so on. Similar to this situation, again, they can fall from Osha. We need to cover these areas or workers to walk near this area.
But I am going to open the poll. Are there rules for how often?
So we need to read the instruction because there are different qualities. And also we have to replace them whenever we have people who were falling. Usually all these devices or these parts are going to be affected and we have to dispose of them. We cannot continue using these parts. Actually, we have to destroy them and put it in the trash. We cannot just put it in the trash, but we have to destroy them. So that's why it's recommended to review if they are in good condition also. If they are not in good condition, we have to replace them. We watched this in this video some instructions about it. But in some cases, we have manufacturers that are putting some indication about the expiration date. Sometimes they can expire 30 years or 40 years. It depends on the quality of the materials that were used to build the system. So yeah, it depends. Do you have a second question?
The next one is just a comment. Oh, wait, we have another question came in. What type of lanyard is needed in an aerial unit, i.e. bucket truck?
This is, we need a lanyard to, it's a personal fall restraint system, something to prevent you from falling. That's the recommendation, to keep you in the bucket, to don't allow you to leave the bucket. In some circumstances, you are going to, if you, it's also allowed to use the personal fall arrest system, but the general recommendation is to use the personal fall restraint system, a lanyard that is not long enough to allow you to fall from the bucket.
All right, that was actually the last question. And let me give you the response to the poll. For our fill in the blank, it says a personal fall arrest system must limit the maximum arresting force on a worker to how many pounds? So the responses we have, let me go ahead and share these with everyone. 13% said 5,000, 50% said 1,800, 7% said 1,200, 17% said 2,400, and 13% chose 800 pounds.
Yeah, and the answer should be 1,800 pounds. That's the limit. OSHA is asking us to reduce the impact to 1,800 pounds or less. Actually, if you are using a shock absorber, as we watch in the video, you can reduce the impact to 800, 900 pounds. So using a shock absorber is very recommended when you're using a lanyard to reduce the impact to less than 1,800 pounds. Do you have any other question?
I do not see any right now.
Okay. Well, this is the end of this fall protection training. If you have any other question, please, you can send it to Paula and she can send it to me. As I told you, we were working thanks to the Federal Highway Administration grant that is providing this training for free. We can provide this training for any of your organization or work sites also, but we need to organize it similarly to the work we do with the Ohio LTAP. And thank you, Paula, thank you, Victoria, for your help to organize this training. Next week, we are going to provide a similar training, but it's going to be in Spanish. So, and we are going to continue providing more classes, I think, also with the Ohio LTAP. So it is all with me, and thank you for your patience and your participation. Paula, thank you for your help again.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.